Hey everybody, it's Marty of the JavaScript Party and my buddy Rhett. She was pretty feisty in my video about 3JS that I just uploaded a couple minutes ago. Looks like she wants to be feisty in this one too. It is interesting because she doesn't act like this most of the time, but she does while we're doing these videos. And I don't. I that was really loud. I have like this little thing that shows how loud things are, and the it's loud. And then here's another weird thing: is for some strange reason my videos are being recorded a lot louder than they used to be, which actually I think is better. I think it's more in sync with the rest of my other, or it's more in sync. But I do think that it's probably not going to be pleasant at first for people who may be watching the videos in sequence and suddenly everything gets louder. Um, so I don't know what that is. But every time she does that, it just makes everything red on my little audio mixer thing. Let's see if I can show it. Yeah, see how like this whole thing goes all the way to the end. Um, so yeah, no, if it's hurting your ears, it's not you, it's me. Sorry. Sorry. But if it makes you feel any better, which, not the kind of thing that make me feel any better, but if it makes you feel any better, it's probably louder on my ears than it is on yours. But we have had her she's lived with us for over 20 years, so I have gotten some probably sort of internal software in my head that filters that out. So I've become impervious to that. And I did spend like a couple years working at CNN, and some of those times I actually had to sit in the newsroom, and it gets loud with all kinds of crazy alarms going on and all that, and I'd have to code and there. And I'll tell you, there is just nothing more pleasant than working in when it's really really loud, and then that loudness kind of slowly gets a little less loud, less loud, and then like everybody goes home and it's just dead quiet. The flow state that you can get when that happens is just incredible. um, but anyways, yeah, so I did mention TikTok shut down. Now my understanding is TikTok is supposed to is on the hook to shut down again in like 90 days, or maybe probably now it's more like 80 days, 75 days, something like that. And it's going to be very interesting to see how that plays out. Um, I could tell you that in that last thing, like my wife's business absolutely spiked right before the TikTok downturn and then has stayed high ever since then. Um, so I think people like don't take it are yeah, they don't take it for granted. They lost it for a few hours, and then now they don't take it for granted. Um, it is also interesting because my wife does something that's pretty similar to what I do. Right? She does makes these tumblers and stuff, but the difference between her and me is that she works directly with the customers. So they tell her what they want, and then she goes back and forth, and then she builds it out and all that. But I generally have layers of people between me and my customers, and the people who use my product. And um, I've noticed that like there are some challenges, and I think a lot of those challenges have gotten significantly worse since I first started coding. And I think the reason is I blame that 100% the reason on Agile. Agile software development does some really causes some very strange things. And one of the things that I think it causes that's very strange is like I've noticed that like it makes the relationship between the on the ground developers, like the people who are actually writing code, um, and everybody else, except for the end users. It makes all those. It basically you have three groups. So you have your developers, you have your end users, and then you have a bunch of people in the middle. I think it makes the people in the middle literally hate the developers and literally hate the end users. Um, and generally, the developers and the end users like each other in these things if they actually can see each other. But the like the just the how much those middle people. just despise the end users and just despise the developers. It's just incredible. I've never seen anything like that. And now that I'm sort of getting to experience a slow motion sort of implementation of Angular, of Agile, I can absolutely see why. Because what happens is the everybody, with the exception of the developers and the end users, they all have these meetings, all kinds of meetings there, planning meetings and this meeting and that meeting. They just have tons and tons of these meetings. And in these meetings, they like imagine all these things. They're like, oh, it would be cool if we had this, and it would be cool if we have that. But they don't, and then they bond. They bond on those things. And then what happens is once it gets delivered, if the developers develop it the way that the all the other people, I'm not going to name out specific roles because it's not always the same, but all the people in the middle, Scrum Masters. I think that's the one. I have a real problem with that name. I think that, and I don't really have a problem with the name because I think the master part is very whatever, but I think that it attracts a certain kind of person, someone who wants to be wants to have that title, tends to be a certain way, no matter how nice they seem. But all those people in the middle, like they bond across these like dreams, and then if those dreams get built, and then the end user's like, that's not what I wanted, it crushes their dreams and makes them hate the end users. And then if they have dreams and it's not feasible, like, oh, I wanted to do this and that and this and that, and it's like, well, we don't have the data to do that. Or if they're like, oh, I want to be able to see like what the temperature of Florida is based on the number of red cars that drive into Florida. And then they find out that there's no way to determine the number of red cars that drive into Florida. And you tell them that, like, we don't have that information. There's no way we can make that. It crushes their dreams. And so you have this group of people in the middle that are like dreaming up things in their minds, and they get really, really vested in those dreams, and then they find out that they can't. Then there's like two basically black hats. There's two groups of people that are just dream crushers, and that's the developers and the end users. And it causes a wedge between those groups that's just horrible. It's absolutely horrible. But anyways, speaking of dreams, so I had this dream that you would be able to see all the things in that the voice would that this API provides, and you'd be able to toggle them and play around with them, and then you'd be able to see the results. That was my dream. And then I built something really cool. Hello. All right, that is cool. It says hello, 84% chance, and you can it thinks there might be 5 other things, and those are the 5 other things. And if that's not cool to you, then I don't know what to tell you. And you can even click it, and then you can come over here and you can do this. So, that is freaking awesome. And I don't know what to tell you if it's not to you, but, and then like, so think was such an interesting one, right? Think. It's got 6 things. I think somebody said THINQ. That's a new one for me. And that's one of my favorite things, right? Because like I've got to learn some new slang writings. And so these are all the things it thinks I might have said. It thinks there's a 5% chance that I said that. And I don't even know what that means. SCINQ. So one thing it tells me is a lot of people either pronounce STH or THS. We know that. A lot of people. It's not rare at all. So let's just put this into Google. Sync was created for the bride that connects on an emotional level to her gown. It's not just the dress. It's a preface. So yeah, sync. Oh. Now this says it's, oh, no, that's a translation. And then, I don't know, there's like a French to English. So apparently it's a French thing. But yeah, sink is a word that's specific to gowns. I would not know that unless I said think. The other one that I really found interesting was thing. So it thinks I said finger. I don't know why. Let's try it again. Thing. Well, okay, so what was fascinating actually, okay, so this time it thinks I said sing, but it says there's a 42% chance that I said thing, and only a 9% chance that I said finger. So for most of the time that I've ever used this, the first entry was the most likely one, or was the most likely one. Not necessarily the highest confidence, but the most likely one. But suddenly this week, the second most likely one. So this time it thinks that I might have said sing with six other things. And so it thinks that there's a 45.3 chance that I said sing, but a 45.6 chance. So, anyways, the point is, this is cool. It's cool to me. I love it. It's amazing, and it's absolutely not what I wanted to build. And no intention of building this. This is not what I wanted to build. And I'm trying to think of when I got knocked off, and I think it was when I was showing this to my son and his wife, my daughter-in-law, and they got all into it and they wanted to see a bunch of stuff, and this would have made the whole experience. That was at Christmas time, and it was just a really neat experience. And this whole application, so if we had a customer, and let's say I spent 3 weeks building this thing, and they wanted a voice analyzer, and they were like looking forward in their mind, they had dreamed of building, of getting a hold of this thing, and then they were going to be able to play with all the different knobs and and all that. They would have been like, oh man, yeah, we're about to deliver your product, and then we would just do the total miss. And that would have been like the developer would be like, hey, I built what they told me to build. This is what we dreamed up. And then they would be like, yeah, that's not what I want. If you look at the description I wanted something where I'd be able to control the different pieces, and this is not that. Big miss. And I don't think that, like, when people go through the experience of sort of imagining something really cool and then watching it come to fruition, and it's just this really neat thing that is cool and they love it and all that, and then having the customer say, yeah, that's not what I wanted. I don't know why you built that. That's not what I wanted. Like, there's just no way not to have negative feelings about the customer. Then on the other side, like, if you've gone with the customer and they've come up with all these amazing ideas and all that, and then the developer is like, yeah, that can't be done. Again, it's hard for the people that participate in all of the imagineering, um, and then finding out, not disliking the person that throws cold water on the things that they imagine. And I do think that that may be the thing that I hate the most about agile, is that it just puts me as a developer in a position of dream crusher. And I think that that's why I've been like desperately trying to get out of development role, and I want to be a QA, because as a QA, you're not really crushing the dreams of anybody. You're like just testing that it works the way you're supposed to work. You're checking out, like, you may go in and see that a requirement doesn't quite match up to the title or something. I might say, hey, what's wrong? This seems a little off or whatever. But in that situation, you're kind of the hero. You get a hero role. You're not a dream smasher. Um, but anyways, with that said, if you know anyone who wants a QA that knows how to code, give me a call. I will put something in the chat. I would love to be a QA somewhere. If you have like an Angular position or a front end position or whatever, yeah, don't bother. I'm not interested. I can't imagine a better boss than I have now. Can't imagine a better situation than I have now. They're making it as good as it could possibly be. And I doubt your organization can make it any better. But, so next, a cog. Sounds so simple. Such an easy thing, and it's really not. It is easy. It probably won't take much to do it, but getting it right, you kind of have to know some stuff. So the first thing we need to do is we need to figure out where this guy lives, and I believe it's in the discrete component. Now, this is how I would figure that out, though. I would do an inspect here, and then I would see where that little guy lives, and that's not as easy as you would think. So it's down in here. So once you've clicked that, you can click this, and then you can click here. And now we know that we have our, so this is starting to make some sense. Okay, here's our icon. Here's the button. I like saying button. There's that. And then here's the record button. So this is all living in something called, something with a class of buttons. And it's in this thing called app discrete. So the next thing you can do is you can just search for app dash discrete. And not discrete, discrete. All right, so here is in the a component that probably is not. So this is HTML. That's probably not the one you're looking for. This one is just short of that. See this, what you're looking for is a selector app discrete. That's where the code is going to be that does that. And so now you're kind of done with this search thing. You want to come over here, and that is probably in the HTML that is its sibling, its file sibling. And there we go. There's our delete, and we say if the result is not undefined, but we always want to be able to bring up our little cog. So we are going to have a button, and that button will always be there. So we don't need to wrap it in this if Angular template language, and it's going to be open discrete form. Seems like a good name for it. We're going to give this area label. So this is what will show up for people who are using screen readers. Discrete form. And then the mat icon. I'm going to just guess. I like to guess on this and then just see what happens. I find that to be interesting. Now it's going to break because we don't have an open discrete form. And I don't think it'll draw the screen. Yeah, so it would have been nice if it would have drawn the screen and just been like. And if you're working on an older version of Angular, there's a lot of times in the older versions it would draw it. So I'm going to try to remember open discrete form. I want to not have the memory of a goldfish. So open discrete form. And we're just going to say alert open discrete form. And let's see what happens. So it didn't work. And it didn't work, and I don't know why, because we should see a cog right there. So now let's try to find, oh, it's probably because cog is not a word. Record button. Let's just do this. Oh, let's actually, hello. Okay, so it's got a space there, and that's that. So that's a good sign. I'm curious if I hit reload. This is pure curiosity. Oh, okay, so it's there. It just cog isn't a thing. So this is like what ChatGPT just excels at. What is the icon for a cog in Angular material? Question mark. Settings. Which is pretty interesting because that makes sense because that is what I want to change is settings. Settings. There we go. Discrete form. Okay, so now what I'm going to want next, and I'm probably, yeah, 20 minutes is a good amount of time. The next step I'm going to want to do is to actually have a dialogue come up. And it doesn't need to, a dialogue is perfectly fine because there really, if I remember correctly, there's only like 3 things that we could change. I believe we could change like the number of results, we could change the language, and we can change, that might be it. Maybe one other thing. I can't even remember what it is. But I think we could change whether it's continuous or discrete, which I don't even think we won't need that because this is where you'll check continuous. I do think that looks cool though. Like that takes a moment. You got to take a minute and say, "Oh, that looks cool," and then I don't think there's enough going on this screen to make it worth like putting a label on or put it in a button that says settings or something. I do think if this was something that you wanted to build for like actual maybe users that aren't going to use this every day, they're just going to use it once in a while, you might want to make this like a blue button with the little guy there and then it says settings. But since it's just for us, I think anyone can click on it, say, oh, there's one thing to click on. I guess I'll click on that and see what it does. But that is that. And it's a hand. There's no, I think that tomorrow we'll start building out the dialogue that gets popped up. I know that like the very first time I could usually, if I'm at work and I need to do a dialogue, I can get a dialogue up in about working and just all that in about 15 minutes, maybe 5 minutes, probably 15 minutes to get all the different pieces that you have to get working on that. I think the very first time I ever had to do it, it took me like days. There's just so many little mistakes you can make along the way. And so it took days, and then I got to where I could do it in like 15 minutes. Because there will be some slight variations on different, depending on the architecture of the application you're working on and stuff like that. And then like, I think I've never had a boss that didn't think that that was a 30-second job. That's one of those things where like sometimes you win some, you lose some. Sometimes management thinks that something's going to take you a week and it doesn't take you 10 minutes. And then sometimes they think things are going to take you 30 seconds and it takes you a whole day. So that is probably why I suspect for a modern software developer, the most important skill you can have is probably the ability to communicate complex things. But anyways, yeah, that's that. I think we have made good progress and we have something cool, and we won't lose any of the cool stuff by implementing this new thing. I don't think being able to set the settings is going to be nearly, well, actually it's going to be pretty cool because like, yeah, it'd be pretty neat to be like, oh, okay, Arabic. Okay, how do I say hello in Arabic, and then like try to say it and see what I have to do to get the word hello to work in Arabic. For me, how I need to pronounce hello for my computer to recognize it as hello. Which, honestly, like, dang, 10 years ago, that would have been a dream come true for a lot of people, and now it's just something that some dude hanging out with his parrot can just feel like doing it. And yeah, so anyways, happy coding. Bye.